All right, so today we're going to dive into something that you might think you already know all about,
Okay.
alcohol. We're going deep on its impact on the body,
Right.
but not with like the usual moderation lecture.
Yeah.
We're going to go a little bit further, and we're going to unpack some really surprising findings from a recent discussion between health experts.
Yeah, it definitely challenges some common assumptions.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Like, buckle up, because the first thing we need to address is
Okay.
research is now showing that there might be no safe dose of alcohol.
Yeah, that's a bold statement. And it really throws a wrench into that whole idea that a little bit is harmless.
I know. And I mean, we've all heard that a glass of red wine a day is good for you.
Right, yeah. And turns out any amount of alcohol, even a tiny drop, or as one of the experts put it, a gota, can have an adverse effect.
Wow.
Yeah. And to be clear, they're saying scientific evidence shows there's no safe dose of alcohol. It's been proven everything has an adverse effect.
Well, okay, so no amount is truly safe.
It doesn't seem like it.
So what happens when we even have that little gota?
Well, this is where it gets fascinating.
Okay.
Your body can take 4 to 7 days to fully recover from even a single drink.
Wait 4 to 7 days from just one drink.
Yep.
Really?
It's like a hidden hangover we don't even realize we're experiencing.
Wow.
Imagine your body putting out a fire caused by that drink for days on end.
Okay, that's a wild image.
Yeah.
And, when we think about alcohol's effects, we usually just think about the brain, right? Like feeling fuzzy or slowed down.
Yeah, you're right. It does affect the brain, but what's really intriguing is that it specifically targets the cerebellum.
The cerebellum.
Yeah.
That's the part that helps us balance.
That's one of its roles, but it's so much more than just balance control.
Oh.
The cerebellum is actually involved in a huge amount of our cognitive functions. Think about things like planning, making decisions, processing information, all that good stuff.
So what you're saying is when we have a drink, we could be impacting our ability to think clearly for days after.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And remember that story from the expert discussion about people feeling the effects of drinking days later? It just goes to show that the impairment can last long after the initial buzz wears off.
Okay, this is making me think twice about those after-work drinks.
Yeah.
So alcohol's messing with our brains. But what's happening at the cellular level? I remember the experts mentioning something about mitochondria.
Ah, yes. The mitochondria, they're like tiny energy factories inside every single cell in your body.
What? The powerhouses.
Exactly.
But how does alcohol fit into the picture?
Well, these little powerhouses take the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe and turn them into usable energy for our bodies. And here's the thing, alcohol can actually damage those mitochondria.
So it's like sabotaging our own energy supply.
Unfortunately, yes. When alcohol disrupts the mitochondria's work, they become less efficient. This means less energy for us, and over time, it can lead to a whole bunch of chronic illnesses.
Wow. It's more than just feeling tired after a night out.
Right.
It's a long-term health risk.
Yes. Yeah. One of the experts put it perfectly. Without healthy mitochondria, we simply can't be healthy.
Wow.
It's a pretty powerful statement about the consequences of alcohol consumption.
That's definitely sobering. And to make matters worse, the experts talked about a toxic cocktail effect. What exactly do they mean by that?
So it's the idea that while alcohol on its own can be harmful, we often combine it with other unhealthy habits.
You mean things like a poor diet, not enough sleep, stress?
Exactly.
All the usual suspects?
Yeah, and these things don't just happen in isolation, they compound each other's negative effects.
Right.
It's like adding ingredient after ingredient to create this toxic cocktail that puts a huge burden on your body.
So alcohol is just one part of this bigger picture of not so great choices.
Right. Think about your own daily habits. Are you getting enough sleep, eating well, managing your stress, or is alcohol just adding another layer to an already overloaded system?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
I know I've been guilty of not always making those healthy choices myself.
And you know that analogy they use, the straw that breaks the camel's back? Alcohol might not be the only problem, but it could be the tipping point that pushes us towards bigger health issues.
Right, yeah. It's like the final straw.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is all a lot to take in. We've got the no safe dose thing, the hidden week-long hangover, and this toxic cocktail idea. It sounds pretty bleak, to be honest. But the experts didn't just leave us with a doom and gloom message, did they?
No, not at all. In fact, they had this incredibly empowering message about taking control of our health. It's about moving away from feeling like a victim and realizing we actually have agency.
Right. They were pretty adamant about that. One even said, and forgive my pronunciation, pasa de ser víctimas, desde ahora en adelante sí, and de solucionarlo. which basically translates to stop being victims. From now on, yes, go and fix it.
Exactly. They're emphasizing that even though we might have made some not so great choices in the past, we can always choose differently starting right now.
Yeah, and with this new knowledge about there being no safe dose of alcohol, it's not about, feeling guilty. It's about making more informed decisions moving forward.
Absolutely. We can all choose to be architects of our own health, building a stronger foundation for the future.
So how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin to architect a healthier lifestyle?
Well, the first step is awareness, which we're doing right now,
Right.
but the next step is turning that awareness into action.
And I imagine that can feel overwhelming. It's not like we can just flip a switch and change everything overnight.
Yeah, you're right. It's important to be realistic and kind to ourselves. Change happens gradually. Remember, even small changes, when we do them consistently, can have a huge impact over time.
So it's not about going cold turkey on everything all at once, more like finding a pace that we can actually stick with.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what works for you. Maybe start by cutting back on alcohol gradually. Could you skip that second glass of wine with dinner? Or how about having a few alcohol-free days each week?
Okay, those sound like manageable steps. And what about the other parts of the toxic cocktail? The diet, sleep, stress. Where do we even begin to address those?
It's about tackling those other ingredients, not just focusing on the alcohol. Think about adding more whole foods to your diet, really prioritizing good quality sleep, and finding ways to manage stress that work for you.
I know, I feel like a completely different person when I'm getting enough sleep and eating well.
It makes a huge difference. And here's the best part. Those positive changes can create a ripple effect. When you feel good, you're more likely to make healthy choices in other areas of your life, including your relationship with alcohol.
So it's like a positive feedback loop, helping us build momentum. We're cutting back on alcohol, improving our diet, sleeping better, managing stress. What else should we be thinking about?
Don't forget about movement. Regular exercise, even if it's just a walk each day, can do wonders for both your physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, it's easy to underestimate the power of just moving our bodies, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Find activities you genuinely enjoy and make them a regular part of your routine.
So it sounds like we're talking about a holistic approach. It's not just about cutting out alcohol, it's about taking care of our whole selves.
Exactly. It's about making those conscious choices that support long-term health and happiness.
And we don't have to do it alone, right? There are so many resources available to support us. Communities, healthcare professionals, even just our friends and family.
You're absolutely right. And it's also important to remember that change can be tough. There will be setbacks and days when we don't feel like sticking to our goals.
Right, it's about progress, not perfection. We're all human.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself, celebrate your wins, and learn from the times when things don't go as planned.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I'm really reflecting on my own choices and how I can take better care of myself. But before we move on, there's one thing I'm curious about. We've talked a lot about the negative impacts of alcohol, but the experts did touch on some potential benefits, specifically around social connections and how alcohol can be part of social events.
Right, that's an important point. Social connections are absolutely vital to our well-being, and alcohol is often ingrained in how we socialize. However, it's worth questioning whether alcohol is truly necessary for building and maintaining those connections.
So being mindful of the role alcohol plays in our social lives and maybe finding other ways to connect that don't revolve around drinking.
Exactly. Can we enjoy each other's company and build meaningful relationships without relying on alcohol? I think that's a great challenge for all of us to consider.
Yeah, it brings us back to this idea of being architects of our own health. It's about making conscious choices about all aspects of our lives, including how we socialize and how we choose to use or not use alcohol.
And it's about being open to exploring new possibilities, new ways of connecting, new ways of celebrating, new ways of simply being.
I love that. Well said. I think that's a perfect segue into our closing thoughts for this deep dive. What are you leaving our listeners with today?
Yeah, that is a great question to ponder. It really feels like, this new information gives us a chance to reevaluate things. Absolutely. It's not about, dwelling on past choices, but about taking this knowledge and using it to create a healthier future.
Yeah.
We have the power to make those changes.
Yeah, and I love that image of being the architects of our own health.
Yeah.
Like we can design the lives we want.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are communities, resources, and people who understand this journey. Connect with them, share your experiences, and support one another.
Yeah, that's so important to remember. We're all in this together. So as we wrap up our deep dive into alcohol's true impact, I'd encourage you to keep digging. Maybe research the long-term effects of alcohol on specific organs, or explore some of those alternative ways to connect with people we discussed.
Yeah, and remember, even small changes can have a big impact if you stick with them. Start with one thing, be consistent, and celebrate your progress along the way.
This has been a truly eye-opening conversation. I hope it's given you some new insights and inspired some positive changes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.